Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here in Antwerp with yet another brew review. Today we are talking, as usual, about something special. This is a beer a friend of mine gave me as a gift, saying, I'm very curious what you think about this. And just because he said that, I am too. This is the Kaishaku by Kerel. Now, a lot of people think that Kerel is the brewery, but Kerel is the brand attached to the brewery. This is a brewery that is not very well known by name. However, it is quite well known by the beers that they make. This is Brewery, and I'll have to check to not make mistakes in here. Brewery VBDCK or VBDCK. Where does this abbreviation come from? Well, it is Brewery Verbeek Bak de Kok. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about this brewery right now because this brewery deserves a brewery breakdown in itself. This is a brewery that was founded, I think, in the early 19th century or mid 19th century. It then disappeared and it came back when these guys refounded it in 2015, I believe. Yes, 2015. They pride themselves in being an independent, experimental brewery, and I think that this beer is the best proof of that. Now, why did this friend of mine say, I'm very curious what you think? Well, because this is a very special beer, in the sense that, first off, it has 15% ABV. And that brings us to the second characteristic why this is a special beer, because most beer yeast strains, or what we call beer yeast strains, don't ferment up to 15%. That means that in order to do so, we'll have to use a creative yeast strain, being from wine, from champagne, something like that. And in this case they used sake yeast. So all the way from Japan, they call it their secret ingredient or their magic yeast. It is plain and simple sake yeast, and I say plain and simple, but I know that the brewer from North Antwerp Brewing, for example, also spent a lot of time in Japan discovering, learning, perfecting his techniques with sake yeast. So yeah, there's nothing plain and simple about yeast in general, so this one neither. That also brings us to the name of this beer, Kaishaku. I am definitely butchering that. My Japanese is a little rusty, being I never talked Japanese in my life, but Kaishaku refers to an assistant while committing seppuku, and seppuku is a form of a ritual suicide to restore the honor of the family, for example. Most people know harakiri, and harakiri is a form of seppuku. Seppuku is often aided by an assistant, and that would be the kaishaku. Now, why did they call this kaishaku? Because they call this beer a killer, just like Duvel had its name by someone saying, wow, that's a strong devil. This one also got nicknamed the Killer or the Suicide Blonde. So again, seppuku, kaishaku. Yeah, I think I told you everything there is to tell about this beer, apart from the ingredients. And the ingredient list is quite limited in the sense that it has water, barley malt, wheat malt, sugar, hops, and yeast. And they don't go into detail, not even about the yeast on this packaging. Now, talking about packaging, say what you will, I kind of like these. First off, the labels, when I see this in a store, I immediately think hipster town kombucha and stuff. that doesn't mean I don't like it. I do like these labels, and it took some time for me to get used to that this is also a way of marketing beer. Of course, we as Belgians, some of us are rusted quite shut in that classic world, classic labels, classic forms, and so on and so on. Bottle cap has this little stop sign here, and it says VBDCK traditional strike through, so non-traditional Belgian brewery, untouched by monks. And they do play with those strike throughs, like here they underline Kaishaku and then they strike through everything that is, well, not to their liking. So Banzai, bursting, Outre, Suicide Blonde, brewed and bottled in Belgium by VBDCK. And on top here as well, find what you love and let it kill you. They struck through the let it kill you, just like they strike through the traditional here as well. Why do I like these labels? Well, the use of these lines is quite fun. It is playful, but especially the coloring. I like this dark baby blue, I like this washed out red and the black, and the use of only 3 colors and the simplicity in this label kind of attracts me. So, like I said, I'm very, very curious to try this beer for the simple reason that, well, experimental yeast, 15%, what a doozy. So, also it looks a bit like a medicine bottle, which is quite fun. The only thing that I don't like about these bottles, and that is a marketing decision, that is that these are one-time use, just like the long neck bottles that many brands use. We have a culture of reusing bottles. A typical life cycle of one beer bottle is about 8 fillings before it gets thrown away, and when I say thrown away, I mean recycled. These bottles are single use and then they get recycled in a best case scenario, because these aren't collected by the brewery, these are just throwaway. So trust the consumer. A future fridge magnet. Oh, beautiful color. I do have to work to get foam on there, but it'll do. Interesting aroma, I can tell you that. Now, I did get a bit more careful towards the end, because I did see there was a lot of yeast in the bottle. However, it's not flaky, it's not chunky, so I decided to add it, which gives this beautiful swirl in the glass. Lovely color, a nice golden blonde, and with those swirly yeast veils, it only gets more beautiful. Quite carbonated, even though we only see small, tiny mini bubbles. I'm not sure, but I am gonna put that towards the sake yeast. I think that is attributed to that. That also brings us to the foam. Nice, even though I had to work for it, but a nice, creamy, dense layer of foam, yellowish off-white, absolutely beautiful. Like I said, the aroma, the scent is very special. Special in the way that I get a lot of malt. Not as much carbon dioxide as I expected. Same goes for alcohol. It is slightly boozy, but it's absolutely not dominant. It's slightly herbal, it is a bit sour. Now, I have been told that sake yeast ferments a bit to the sour side. So, I don't know if this is a sour beer, but I am going to find out in just a second. So, cheers. Ooh. Interesting. This is actually really complex. First thing I get is it's slightly woody. It's as if it would be wood aged. I know for a fact that it's not, but that is already very interesting. Secondly, I do get a tiny hint of licorice, but I mainly get a lot of malt. It's malty sweet, so not sugary sweet. That means that there is still a bit of leftover sugar. It is also very yeasty, so even in using Japanese sake yeast, they managed to get that Belgian-y yeasty flavor in there as well, which is very nice. When it comes to acidity, not so much. I did get a bit of sourness in the aroma that doesn't shine through in the taste, which is special in itself. And of course, it is really boozy. It is very warming, but it's not annoying. So it is tippy-toeing on that chord of getting too strong, getting by flavors, but I think that this is spot on, at least for the first sip. It is quite herbal and quite floral. I think if they would make up a marketing story about cherry blossoms being added, I would probably believe it. And I think this could replace many a blonde Christmas beer or holiday beer, for example. It does really taste like 15%, so it is strong, it is warming, it is not aggressive though. But you do immediately get the idea, don't chug this, this will be the end of the night. The after flavor is interesting too. Again, floral and herbal, mellow, quite alcoholic. Tiny hint of licorice, but I do seem to recognize hints of honey, for example. Yeah. I think this could also be a very nice a novelty aperitif, but only if you divide a bottle like this under like 3 people, small portions, because for an aperitif you want to wake up your stomach, get the juices flowing, but you don't want to fill up the stomach. So you don't want to have 33 centiliters in there. You want like 10, 12 centiliters in there, and that would be ideal. I also think this would be fantastic with strong flavors like game, some boar, some deer, or just marinated meats, Korean barbecue, or barbecue in general. Okay. Scoring this is so hard. Why? Well, simple reason. I don't think I would order a second one. I think I would have my work cut out for me with only one of these. Bear in mind that this is almost 2 Duvels or 2 triple Westmalle or whatever. This comes across as something whiskey infused, for example, but without the bi-flavors, so this is pretty strong. So am I gonna get a second one? No, that would be a very bad idea, even though it's good. But on the other hand, I do have to recognize quality, as I always say, so I am gonna score this quite high. 375. Yeah, just for the originality, for the execution, for the look, and the aroma was a bit less to my liking, but all the rest in this beer, even the packaging, spot on. So yeah, a 375 is in its place. That all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a comment down below or hit the thumbs up, or do both, all of the above. If you want to support this channel, visit the Patreon page. You might want to share a video with some friends. You can also visit me here in Antwerp. We can do brewery tours, we can do city tours. Just hit me up whenever you're here. And if you want to see more, hit the bell icon after you subscribe so you'll get notified whenever I upload something. And that would be, yeah, a few times a week, whenever I feel like it. So, until then, cheers.